Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Yan. In this episode, you will hear part 2 of my conversation with Dr. Abiodun Durojaye, Executive Director of Urban Alliance. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Something about working with young people now that you're working with them and as they go into deciding what they want to do in life, um, do you also work with parents and their schools? How does that work for in your role?
That is a great question. So parents are a big stakeholder, and we are doing, we have some more work to do in that realm. Because when our young people get into internships, we try really hard to leave out the parents because, you wouldn't call my mom if I got in trouble at work. So we do try, right? Hopefully not. We do try and really model this idea of like what it's like to be a working adult.
Mhm.
That is super duper important to us. We try and model this idea of what it's like to be a working adult. However, we try and make sure parents have a clear or guardians have a clear understanding of how to support their young people. It's going to get tough. Senior year is very, very tough, right? So support could also look like, hey, for this like last senior year, they may not be able to watch their sibling because they have to go to work,
Mm.
right? Hey, they may not be able to do X, Y, and Z because we expect them to show up in a different way. Um, so we try really hard to engage parents. I think we could always do a better job. I'm always like we could always do a better job in any of this. Um, but the parents or guardians are trusted within their young people, and I think the best way to get young people to show up is to get their support system to show up for them,
Yeah,
right? So if we want these young people to show up at work every day, we need to get their squad, their cheering squad, to show up for them in a different way. It's
yeah.
important. It's important.
Is that a big hurdle in your work?
um I That's a great question. I Yes, and I think part of the hurdle is because we have not found the best way to systematize that approach, right? Like, it shouldn't be you hearing calls from me when things aren't right, but how do you get them to show up in the very beginning, in the enrollment period, and how do you get them to take it seriously? How do you get parents to see value in this program when they have a lot on their plate as well, right? Like, some parents are trying to figure out how to make ends meet. I don't have time for an external program right now,
Mhm.
right? Our goal next program year in Chicago is 170 seniors alone, right? We're looking at 170 seniors alone. We're looking at almost 900 sophomores in a different type of training and about 225 juniors. So, oh, right? Like the senior
Yeah,
one,
it's a lot of
yeah,
people.
it's a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's a lot of people. And I do think parents are the huge part of this work and making sure their success. They help us hold their young people accountable. But I think it's also showing parents the value in programs like this. You got to understand, right? Like internships may be a new idea to parents as well, and you
Mm,
can't
yeah.
see value in something you don't know, right? So like really teaching parents and coaching parents on this idea of internship, and not for the now, but for the later, right? When it's not almost like an instant gratification, and it's like, look, they may not see the value of this program for another year or even for when they graduate college and are able to come back to the employer they interned with in high school. Sometimes that can be very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And does internship generally so first of all, maybe my first question is more, are you able to get these young people paid internships, or are they unpaid?
No, we don't believe in unpaid. I believe
Okay,
every
good,
single person
good.
should be
Yeah.
able to earn, right? There's value in paid.
Mhm,
They are paid internships, and there's a fee for service for the employer side. So
mhm,
employers pay us, and then we put the young people like on our payroll, and we pay them.
mhm.
Um, it's hard. It's hard work, but there are a lot of employers that are seeing value. It's growing.
Yep.
I always think if an employer can put some financial skin in the game, they're more invested. We also definitely we raise dollars like grants and things like that. But we love to see our employers actually pay the fee of service for their young people because they're invested. They're invested in a financial way, right? They're invested in a
Mhm.
different kind of way. So yeah, we definitely pay all of our interns at least a minimum wage, at least,
Mhm.
and then they are able to get raises in the course of their year program. So our senior program, young people do internships Monday through Thursday, half the day. Right. So they go to work from 2 to 5, and then
Mhm.
2 to 5 on Fridays, they meet with our team just to kind of talk about how was the week, what are we learning, how do we apply all these things. So essentially, young people are getting paid for 15 hours of work a week. And then in the summer, after they graduate their senior year, they are able to now go to full time and earn 32 hours a week.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
So the
amazing.
students also get to understand the financial aspect of this too. So because
Absolutely.
that's a big part of it too. I've seen people that do internship for, for credits or whatever,
And
like
we do
unpaid
both.
internships.
We do both.
You do
They
that as well, right? Mhm.
Yes, we do both. They do get high school, it's like an elective credit for it, but they also get paid, right? And that matters, right? In a world where
Absolutely.
kids are not allowed to just be kids, you can't say, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna give you credits."
Yeah. And I, in fact, think that if they get into anyone that's getting into unpaid internships today, something's wrong
Yeah.
with that setup. Whether it be, like you were saying, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm,
You need to be exposed that to the world where we
yeah.
live in. That is that anyone working should be paid.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Right? Absolutely. Like it's exceptionally important to me, especially important to me, excuse me, um, because these are young people of color, right? Primarily the young people that we serve are students of color.
Mhm.
Again, we serve all students and, just making sure they meet certain demographics, but we have seen historically that they are students of color. So it's important that people feel valued for their work, right?
Yeah.
If you and I
Mhm.
go to work and we get paid just because of your age, doesn't mean you shouldn't get paid as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine that that was going to be sort of my, sort of assuming that that was going to be the case. My second question was going to be that um, it it must make it a little bit easier to get the support from the parents and the families too, that they're doing like a real job, or a real, like a real paying position, as opposed to uh, them doing anything else, or not having a job at all, I
Yeah.
guess.
No, you're spot on. I think, once parents see, right, that yes, they're getting paid, there's value in this, they're definitely supportive. They're
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely supportive. And I think, you know, we have a good population of or a percentage of our students that use the money that they make to pour it back into the household.
Yeah, sure.
So it's helpful. Yeah, it's
Some of
helpful.
them have to. Some of them, that's part of
That's
the deal. Yeah.
100%. They have no choice. Remember, it's a privilege to simply be a kid in
Mhm.
2023.
Right. Um, what are some of the um, community partners and employers that you work with that are doing these, providing these internships?
Um, you're saying who are they, or just a
Yeah.
few? Yeah.
Or
Oh my
just
God, we have
Mhm.
amazing partners. We have amazing partners, and I would hate to name them in case I forget, some of the key ones, but, off the top of my head, there's some in just different areas. So we have a couple different pathways that we focus on. Property management, we focus on IT, we focus on banking,
Mhm.
we focus on healthcare, right? So we're really diversifying our arms
Mhm.
in that area. We have partners that are in accounting and HR. There's literally, you got to understand, 138 students. Partners are, maybe close to 70 or so partners. So I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to name one because that one's gonna
Yeah.
be like, really, you didn't think. And so, yeah, we have great partners, and I will say, and I will use this platform to say, we're always looking for more partners whose mission aligns to the work that we do, more partners that understand the value of a young intern and a young, resilient 17, 18-year-old kid who just needs the opportunity to prove themselves, right? A great partner whose mission is aligned on how do we diversify the workforce, right? And we do that by starting it with internships. We do that by going to communities that we know are so talented, yet there are not enough resources being provided, and we provide those, opportunities for these young people. Um, yeah, I'm always looking for more and more and more partners that can um, help our young people get to the next phase.
And for those who are listening, um, if you're interested, or if you know someone who is, right, it could be
Yeah.
a neighbor, it could be someone you know who, an acquaintance, even, you can perhaps doing them a favor as well.
Yes.
Like, just let them know that organizations like the Urban Alliance exists, and that
Yeah.
they are doing the incredible work of making these connections happen. Because
Absolutely.
here's the thing: if you don't make this connection happen, arguably, actually, the your partners are partners to you because they also see value
Yes.
in being able to bring in their next generation of workforce, training them, being able to identify them so that they can come back and perhaps take a full-time position.
Absolutely.
It's a win-win for everyone. It's so
Absolutely.
simple. It makes so much sense, right?
Yes.
But if we don't make that connection, then then both parties are in the stalemate of they don't know
Mm.
what they don't know. They would
Yeah.
never get to know these young people,
That's
and the young
100%
people would
right.
never be exposed, right? And
100%.
and that's why you're doing such important work. Um, Let me ask you a little bit about, sort of, for people who wants to be getting involved. Speaking of, right, of course, if you are in a position of hiring,
Mm.
this is something to really think about. Internship program, not only for college students or recent grads, but for, people in high school,
Yeah.
and getting involved with Urban Alliance. But who else are your stakeholders? Do you work with schools as
We
well?
do,
And
we
yeah.
do. Chicago Public Schools has been amazing, in letting and opening their doors for us to come in and work with their young people. Charter schools, noble schools have been amazing in, opening their doors and letting us come, work with their young people. Young people are amazing for stepping up to the pay plate and
Yeah.
taking on this challenge in their senior year. And I would also say, like, a huge component of what we do are volunteers. We have events every year that look like mock interviews that our students practice their elevator pitch and their interviewing skills with. We reach out to the community for volunteers, and people like come out on a Saturday. We as a nonprofit, we can't give them anything, but we thank them for their time. They are a huge part of why we are in this position that we are in. So definitely a lot of, key stakeholders that are at play: our schools, our employer partners, my staff, the students, volunteers, um, a lot of key people that it really takes to kind of keep us going.
So where do you see, the, what would be a, like, a dream come true for you, for Urban Alliance Chicago, would you have wanted
Mm.
to expand greatly the number of students that you serve, or what's a good what's a north star for you if you think about how you're serving that community?
That's amazing. Expansion is a real thing once you have quality. So I think my dream would be to get a lot of quality employers that come to the table and say, we want to offer internships, because the more employers we get that wants to offer internships, the more students we can have in our program.
Hmm.
Right? It's different versus saying the more students we can have. If we don't have the employers, we got to turn students away. So my dream would be that every single young person in the city of Chicago has an experience of an internship before they graduate high school. At least one. Two is great, but a minimum of one. And that Urban Alliance is the one that brings the employers to the table and connects students to these opportunities. And we build these lifelong relationships that impact students for generations to come. That is a lifelong, my wish list, right? Just getting
Yeah,
employers flocking to the table and taking on interns. It's a lot of work to take on a mentor. It's a lot of work to take on a mentor, right? Especially, or excuse me, an intern. It's a lot of work to take on an intern, especially an intern that does not come as a blank state, right? They have a lot of things that they're wanting to learn and, challenges that they may or may not be having. Um, but some of the best mentors are the ones that have poured themselves and poured their experiences into this. Mentorship is about teaching, and we teach who we are, right? And I think the best part of mentorship is teaching young people who we are, our walks in life, our pathways, and showing them that whatever they aspire to be, there is a pathway to get there,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Um, I I want to I want to ask you a little bit about sort of the maybe sort of zoom out a little bit.
Mm,
Um, in the United States, I think we started talking about this earlier on. We're talking about all the systemic
mm,
pieces of United States. One of the things that in this conversation that makes me think about is this idea of sort of upward mobility and and based on a lot of, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that in the United States, I believe I saw that the upward mobility index was really rather low performing comparing to many other many other countries,
yeah,
and it really points to the fact that it basically really means if you are privileged, you get you get to enjoy that privilege, and so will future generations. But then if you're born into
yeah,
um, a more unfortunate, low, sort of low income, marginalized, area or neighborhood, you might, your
mm,
chance of succeed is just dramatically lower.
yeah,
Um, and w- I mean, I think what you're doing is, of course, one of the ways that are lifting, exposing the students, exposing young people to just opportunities they didn't even know exist.
yeah.
Just by doing so, getting them out of that cycle. What are some of the other things that you're seeing as either both problems and solutions in this big mess of ours?
It is such a mess. I'm not sure I know how to answer that question, but I will say this, and it took me a while to learn this. The education system, the legal system, the prison system, all these systems that we say are broken, right? Um, I don't necessarily think these systems are broken. I think these systems are doing exactly what they were created to do. And that was to keep certain people, right? at a certain place at a certain time. So the prison system ain't broken. It's doing exactly what it's meant to do, which is keep more men, more people of color behind bars, right? The legal system is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was created to do. And one thing that I think needs to change are the policies behind this, right? Because those of us on the ground are constantly doing the work. But
Mm.
if policies don't align to change or recreate systems, it's going to be a lot of hard work.
Mhm.
Systems aren't broken, though. We're doing exactly what they're created to do. Just keep certain people at certain places at certain times.
Right.
Yeah.
That's that's a sad thing to think about, but I think there's a lot of truth and plenty of research to support that.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate. There's plenty of research
Mhm.
to support it, right? Why was prison created? What is education? Like what is this classroom and teaching? And if you think about all these systemic barriers that I talk about, right? Like and you go back to the history of why things were created, you'll see. You'll see. So my job is right to continue to like
Mhm.
challenge people and push a little bit and challenge the status quo and get people to see things from a different perspective, ask the necessary questions, and then challenge them to tell 10 other people,
Right.
right? If I did that and you did that and we all did that, things will start to move. They're moving slowly, but just not fast enough.
Yeah. So, what are some of the impressive things that um, you see young people are doing today
Oh
that
my
gives you hope?
gosh. Amazing things, like, we have students that were invited to go to London, we have students that are a lot of our students just participated with, the foundation. We partner with the Obama Foundation, and some of our students just did this amazing pride parade. I have seen one of our young students used her internship to advocate for her mother to get a full-time employment at her internship site. Right? That's dynamic. That's dynamic, right? Like, I'm like, these young people, it goes beyond, we had some of our young people meet President Obama and like Valerie Jarrett and some really amazing things, don't get me wrong. But when you start to tap into your ability and the things you've learned and begin to like change your family and generation, it's impressive. Her mom lost her job. She made a phone call to like the VP and the head HR person as an intern. They were like, shoot, it's worth a try. This is pretty impressive. Interviewed mom, saw mom was very qualified. Mom began working as a full-time employee.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. That is like, that's what I'm talking about though. These
Mhm.
young people are talented,
Mhm.
right? We just need to give them the space and the voice and the access and opportunity to show us what they are capable of. Because whether we prepare them or not, they are the future.
Mhm.
So how do you and I and employers and teachers and, partners have a hand in molding our future if we are not giving our future the opportunity of work?
Yeah. I love I love that, and it reminds me a little bit of I think it reminds me a little bit of uh, when I was uh, teaching some of my students. Um, I remember someone uh, just really was doubting herself so much
Hmm.
about the kind of work that they would that they are capable of doing,
Mm,
and that by the time and they were just so scared to take any opportunities, even if they are served up to them. they're like, hey, I'll introduce you to someone. Why don't you talk to them um, and do that? And the lack of confidence had run so deep that that even though they can do good work, they're, like
Hmm.
you said, well qualified. They weren't willing to take that step. It's
Yeah.
almost like, like something stopping them from doing that.
Hmm.
And I I I love hearing, the opposite of what's happening here. But they're like,
Yeah.
not only they're advocating extra, for
Yeah.
their
For
families and so on. So to me, there that is some. I mean, I think that this, of course, is depending on the person,
that.
uh,
That's
but
yes.
I do think that there is a lot of hope in my mind of sort of this generation of young people.
Yes.
They
Yes.
are they have this extra, um, there. I think that there is the beginning sense, in my mind at least, a level of urgency
Hmm.
in, changing systems,
Yeah.
in things like, climate change, in things like systemic racism,
Hmm.
um, injustice, and
Yeah.
there's a little more urgency
Hmm.
in this group of young people perhaps than before. I don't know, and
Yeah.
maybe the most recent thing always hits you the hardest. I don't know.
No, you're spot on. I call it the secret sauce.
Yeah,
They have it's a secret sauce. I don't know what it is, but they will tell you how they feel. They will tell you they don't like it. They are very open and honest, and it's up to you to either make the change or remain stagnant, right? I joke with folks and I say, I grew up in a generation where you got to work for like in a job for like 4 years, 3 to 4 years, don't quit, regardless of how miserable you are. This next generation is saying, my mental health is important. I am important. I will not go somewhere I am not valued. And that's telling the employers, that's telling you and I, how do we value people? Because now it's no longer about how long you stay at a job, right? Like you got to make people feel good. You have to change this idea and almost untrain yourself of what we used to think about the workforce and work relationships should be like, right? I don't know what this new normal is with this new generation, but I'm excited. And one thing you said earlier about young people or just people in general not having this ability or kind of self-doubt, right? We call that this imposter syndrome
mhm,
idea.
yeah, mhm.
It's very much a real thing. We all struggle with it in different ways. But yeah, it's good to see someone on the flip end. And I'm sure she had some of that and just said, what do I have to lose at this point? It's really dynamic. These young people are really dynamic and they have this secret sauce. It's kind of like McDonald's where you don't know what their Big Mac sauce is, right? You just know it's good.
Yeah,
Just I don't know what's in that
yeah.
sauce, but it's good. I don't know what is in this sauce of next generation, but I am excited about what they bring to the table.
Yes, yes, that's absolutely right. I, I'm just really so impressed by the work that you've done, and that you're getting these, young people to create portfolios,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy that you know, you're so creative and getting putting all these dots together, and I'm extremely honored to even be a little small part of it, and
Oh
I
my God, no, you have been a huge part of it. And if I didn't see value in this, I would not have brought it on from NLU here. Our young people need Digication. They have to be able to tell their stories. Sometimes you need a voice for kids who don't feel like they have a voice of their own, and Digication does that. This is some important work that we're doing. And, we need, partners, right? Like you and other partners, programming, employers, to be able to say, look, I may be a small part of this, but I want to be a part of it. And that is what you did, right? And I'm just super grateful to you for this platform, for the ability to like one click away, and our young people can send their Digication portfolios to employers who get to read about them and listen before they even meet them. It's some dynamic stuff, and you are part of this movement, and that's exciting.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I really, really just truly appreciate this. And thank you also for sharing all your insights. We
Oh,
covered
of
a lot of
course,
grounds
we
today.
did.
I had no idea how far we would go, but I felt like I could talk to you for a lot longer.
Yeah.
This idea of employers and what the next generation of employers need to be. That's another
Mm,
really interesting one, isn't it?
yeah, it's
But
crazy.
we'll save that for our next time. I hope that
Yes.
we can do that again soon. Seeing the growth in what you all have done, and it's incredibly inspiring. We will make sure to put up some links to the urbanalliance.org website,
Awesome, awesome.
and for those who wants to check out this really amazing work, please go to the website. It's going to be in the show notes, as well as links in the various social media posts. But otherwise, I thank you again
Of
for spending time
course.
with us today.
Of course. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all those who are tuning in, listening. Please don't feel like because you are not located in Chicago, you cannot be a part of this movement. We look for funders, and guess what? We have virtual opportunities for our young people as well. So thank you so much, Jeff, for this wonderful opportunity and for this, partnership with Digication. And thanks to all those listening today.
And thank you, Abiodun.
Of course.
Take care.
Bye.
This concludes our conversation. To hear our next episode, be sure to subscribe to Digication Scholars Conversations on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. The Digication Scholars Conversation series is brought to you by Digication, a technology platform powering the most innovative ePortfolio programs in K-12 and higher education. Our website can be found at digication.com. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for tuning in.